In this video, I went to a local spillway with my ultralight gear and caught some panfish. I'll talk about the method that I used to catch them. It was a ton of fun and I caught a lot of fish. Let's get right to the video. So I took my ultralight gear to a local spillway and I just used small hooks, size 6 to be exact, about a foot under a bobber with live worms. And that was the method that I used to catch these fish. And it didn't take very long at all for me to get my first bite on a live worm right in the middle of the rocks there. We had our first fish and it was a tiny green sunfish. So we released it and decided to cast back out. We got our second fish pretty shortly afterwards. It was a small red ear sunfish. And from there on, we just kept on catching. This is a very effective method for catching lots of different species in spillways. Lots of green sunfish were biting. We almost couldn't keep the fish off the end of our line. So I was basically casting right in those rocks and I'd get hit pretty quick, usually by a sunfish. Caught a few different species. This one was a hybrid bluegill green sunfish. And I was just doing catch and release for the most part, but this is also a good way to catch fish for a fish fry or for bait. And like I said, those green sunfish just kept biting on the worms. I used a little bit of weight, about a 1/4 ounce, to help me get out there. But if you find out that it's too much weight and it's weighing your bobber down, you might need a bigger bobber or a little bit less weight. Kept on casting out and kept on hooking up with more fish. Spillways are definitely a place to get into a bunch of different species. And that's kind of what my goal was out here today, using live worms. Kept on getting bit. Mostly green sunfish. Very aggressive little fish. We just cast out there. I like to cast near rocks or structure. If I don't get bit right away, I'll kind of pop it or reel it in a couple inches. And this catch right here was our first long ear sunfish of the day, which is personally one of my favorite sunfish, just for the colors. They're a gorgeous fish. So we caught one of those, which was awesome. Cast it back out, hooked up again. This one here looks like a little baby bluegill. Let that go. Hooked back up. Got ourselves another little green sunfish. Gave it back to the spillway. And the action continued. Just kept using live worms. Didn't really change anything about what I was using. Just kept hooking up with fish. Had a couple rods out with worms on the bottom, but they didn't get any action. But the worms under a bobber just kept getting hit by a whole bunch of sunfish. Now, if I were fishing for live bait, I'd probably leave at this point with what I had. But I was mostly fishing for fun. Hooked up with something decent right here as the sun was starting to go down. I knew it was something a little better than the other fish I had landed. And it ended up being a catfish, a little bullhead catfish. Yellow bullhead. That fish fought harder than the rest, especially on the ultralight gear. And I was happy to catch something besides a sunfish. That was a total of about 5 or 6 species for the day. And that was probably the biggest fish, although I've caught much bigger fish this way, and I decided to keep that one for dinner. After that catfish, I decided to pack up and call it a night. I had caught a lot of good fish and was ready to go home and cook up the couple fish that I had kept in my bucket. All in all, it was a great day of ultralight fishing at the spillway.